So the only guarantor of it is me. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything.
So there are no ancient manuscripts to back up the prophecy of Nephi about the loss of many plain and precious parts of the Bible. In my conversation with Greg, he explained to me what the Mormon Church had taught him about how this corruption of the Bible occurred.
Well, it's always been my understanding that there has been one manuscript, and as it faded over time, then monks would recopy it over and over and over again. As the manuscript would fade, then they'd create a new one with new ink, and if they didn't like the way something read, or if they thought it was too controversial, they'd just leave it out.
Isn't it the case that in antiquity, the way that the Bible was preserved was that there was only one copy of the Bible, and that copy faded over time, and then as it faded, they would make another copy of it by copying it over, but just one copy at a time?
Not at all, not at all. The situation is completely different. What you do have in antiquity is, first of all, the church start spreading over the Roman Empire and other parts. So everywhere they need copies. So at the very beginning, what you need is copies of the New Testament, because...
So they made thousands of copies.
Of course.
Well, I understand, after having been here and visited, that there are literally thousands of manuscripts. People would go places and want to take their scriptures with them, so they would copy down from another manuscript, and whole bunches of people would do that. So there's literally thousands.
We have like 6,000 copies that go back to antiquity, that are either in Hebrew for the Old Testament or in Greek for the New Testament. If we are talking about the versions, the figure is much higher. We have 40,000 copies. So, which is something amazing. You don't have a single other book in antiquity where you have so many texts.
So let me get this straight. The Book of Mormon has 0 ancient manuscripts to back it up. Yet, it is criticizing the Bible of being unreliable, when the Bible has 40,000 ancient manuscripts to support it. If that were to happen, over and over again, that monks didn't like something, so they would take it out of the New Testament. With all that you have, with the different translations and all the fragments and all the copies that you have, would you be able to determine that happened?
Impossible.
This is impossible because soon after the original writings of the New Testament, thousands of copies were made. So if a monk wanted to make a change, his change would stand out like a sore thumb. This is also true for the Old Testament, but these copies are actually older than when Nephi says the corruption of the Bible took place. So, being here in Israel, we can test our modern Bibles with what's been found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I met up with Dead Sea Scroll expert Dr. Randall Price, who is excavating at Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. So again, Nephi prophesied that the Bible would be corrupted after the 12 apostles of Jesus. And because the Dead Sea Scrolls are older than this predicted corruption, we can compare the Dead Sea Scrolls with our modern Bibles to see if any plain and precious portions are missing.
This is Cave 1. This is where the first discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls was made.
So the plain and precious things were missing, this is saying, after the 12 apostles and after the scriptures went to the Gentiles. What does the Dead Sea Scrolls say about that? Because that would predate that.
Yeah, obviously this is before Jesus' birth, before the birth of the church. They were hidden away, not discovered for 2,000 years after. So it gives us a chance to look at a history before any of this became controversy or any possible changes could have been introduced. And it tells us that the texts remain unchanged. There's nothing different between it and the translation from which our modern Bibles come. So there's nothing missing.
Are these plain and precious portions missing from the New Testament?
Look, when we are talking about the New Testament, we are talking about the best ever well-known book of antiquity. And the difference between what we know about the New Testament and any other book from antiquity is amazing.
And so if the reality is if it is this way, but we can show with the evidence that it hasn't been corrupted, that we have it preserved in our modern Bibles, then that would nullify that whole need for restoration.
In a nutshell.
Did that prophecy come true in history?
Absolutely not. When we compare all the ancient copies of the New Testament that we have, the differences are very small. So you cannot even show me a text where this has been done, because the difference between the different copies that we have are very, very, very tiny. They don't affect the substance of the meaning. It is like saying, instead of how can I put it, but saying however. It is this kind of small and tiny changes. You don't have changes that affect the substance of the meaning of the New Testament. So it's something that it's utterly impossible.
So, back to what is being claimed by Nephi in chapter 13, did his prediction that our modern Bibles would become corrupt after the time of the 12 apostles of the Lamb, did that come to pass in history?
I believe it. Well, from what I've been taught as a youngster, yes, it has occurred.
And what does the evidence that you find here, going and looking at these ancient copies of the Bible, tell you in regards to that?
That it has not. They're all the same.
Then what would the logical conclusion be?
Well, it just shows Nephi was wrong when he made that statement.
Since Nephi's prediction that the Bible would be corrupted did not take place in history, he fails the test of a prophet. We can also test the prophets in the Bible. The central theme of the prophecies made by the Old Testament prophets is in the coming of a person, known as the Messiah, someone who would come to save and eventually rule the world. The writers of the New Testament believed that Jesus Christ was this Messiah. In the New Testament, the title Christ has the same meaning as the Old Testament title Messiah. The first biblical prophet we will test is Micah. Around 700 BC, Micah prophesied that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from of old, from ancient times. Amazingly, a fragment containing Micah's prophecy was discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Dr. Price took me to the cave where it was found.
What we know is beneath this floor, there were 15,000 fragments that were uncovered.
This fragment containing Micah 5:2 dates to 100 BC, making it a century older than the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem. In Matthew's Gospel, he states that Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea. And then he quotes Micah 5:2, to show that Jesus fulfills Micah's prophecy.
So there is a link between the prophecy of Micah and then in the New Testament it is said that he was born in Bethlehem and that he fulfills that prophecy.
I went to Bethlehem for Christmas, along with crowds of people from all over the world.